Get ready to challenge conventional beliefs about what's possible in creating health, wealth, and happiness. You are listening to Playing on the Edge Radio with Megan Edge. This hit show is providing you with ways of sustaining radical and powerful changes in your life. It is time to open and expand your awareness, accelerate your well-being as Megan shares wisdom, teachings, and experience from a lifelong journey of the heart. Enact the power of radical change with ease and lift your desires to a new perspective. Now, here's Playing on the Edge Radio.
Hey, everybody, I'm Dr. Pat, and I'm joined by, of course, the host of Playing on the Edge Radio, Megan Edge. You know, today, Megan, this is kind of cool. We get to talk about time and whether or not time actually does heal all wounds.
Yes.
And you've got something really interesting about this, remembering the future, being present, knowing the past. You know, when we take a look at all of this, we kind of have the thought that if we just give it enough time,
right,
just give it enough time, it is like this miraculous interception of time and healing that happens.
Right.
But is it really that? And what a great show.
I'm so excited for this show. In fact, I'm feeling a little nervous. I want to share with our audience that I'm feeling a little nervous about this. Because for me, it has such importance that as part of the healing journey, we have an understanding of our relationship with time. And so it matters to me that we're able to really do this show in a way that speaks to our audience about this important aspect of our healing journey. And in fact, I want to share that to that end, I found my magic 8-ball just before we started this show. And in fact, we had originally called the show Divination.
Yes.
Remembering the future, being present, and knowing the past. And then as we started to talk about what this was going to look like, right, we decided there needs to be something more to really sink ourselves into. And that's when we came up with does time heal all wounds? Because really that's what we were talking about. But the divination piece of it is important because that's what connects us to the future. So my magic 8-ball and I had a little conversation before we started, and I asked, is this going to be a great show? And the magic 8-ball said, what was the answer? I think it was probably yes or mostly yes.
Mostly. Yeah. Mostly yes.
Mostly yes. Yeah.
Mostly yes. And I think that would be true if I asked that question every day. Mostly yes, right? And what does that mean, mostly yes? That means it could be like 99.9% of it. And isn't it interesting? We all have had our little magic 8-balls, haven't we?
Absolutely. And throughout time, as a species, we have been fascinated with what's going to happen. What's going to happen next, right? And this desire to know that future, to control that future, to understand that future, and to be able to meet that future. And the way that ties into the healing journey and this idea of can time heal all wounds is that as soon as we start thinking about how we can feel better, we've moved into a space in the future where we are anticipating feeling better. We're projecting into a future time when we no longer are in pain, whether that's emotional or physical, and we imagine what that could be like. And in a lot of cases, that's what jumpstarts our healing journey, is getting ourselves out of the present moment where we're immersed in our pain and actually imagining what it's going to be like when we've done our healing work and we're not in that pain any longer.
Yeah, I mean, when we talked about this earlier, we were talking about the meaning or the history of divination. We were talking about what that means and how we can embrace looking at the future, right?
That's right.
And I think it's really interesting as you and I are talking about this. Mark Zuckerberg is just trying to get on, the platform here in front of our Congress to 2 days of questioning about Facebook and what Facebook has done or not done. And for the general public, most of the people don't really know that there was something significant that the Facebook platform did or didn't do.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
at an individual level, I am still just getting my Facebook stuff, right? We're
Mm-hmm.
still doing this Facebook Live.
Right.
And so for people that are invested in a certain aspect of the journey, they're not always conscious, or we're not always conscious that there's even a wound to heal, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We just figure I'm a little bit off today. Maybe I'm just a little bit off. Or
Mm-hmm.
maybe, oh, I'm going to be around that person. Or, oh my gosh, I just don't feel right about that person friending me on Facebook. And
Mm-hmm.
we're not quite sure that there is a thing going on. So the question that I want to ask you is, how do we get to that part? How do we get to that part where there is a thing that might need to be healed?
Mm. I think for everybody, it's a little bit different. In my own experience, what it was something that showed up in front of me that I could no longer ignore. That was, for me, that was the universe giving me that wake up call, saying, you are so far off the path you wrote for yourself when you decided to come back into being human that we need to course correct. And that's when those wake up calls come in. For me, the wake up call had to do with love. For other people, it could do with money, it could do with health, it could do with work, it could do with family, where some event occurs that is so significant that you can't just keep your blinders on. You can no longer pretend everything is okay, and you can no longer hold that smile on your face for the outside world. And then it'll start to show up in physical ways or emotional ways. So like you're saying, you may start to feel off every day. All right, that sense of my skin is too tight, something doesn't feel right. I think I'm missing out on something. I feel like I'm doing the same thing over and over again. I'm just going through the motions. Something is missing.
I think this notion of what is life really about? Will we be living in the present, or will we be living in the past? Let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll talk about that and talk about how all of this together weaves this beautiful tapestry of healing. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back, everybody. Hey, everybody. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Hey, welcome back. It's great to have all of you tune us in and turn us on. Hey, before we keep going, I want to just stop for a minute. And I just want to ask you, Megan, can you give people information about, one, how they can find out more about you, but some of the upcoming work that you're doing?
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to. Speaking of time and future events.
Yeah.
In the present moment, the best way to reach me is through the website, which is meganedge.ca, or you can find me on Facebook under Megan Edge Healing, YouTube under Megan Edge Healing. I'm on LinkedIn. Email, always great. Phone, you can get me in all those places. All the information is on the website. And then to answer your question about what's coming up in the future, there's a number of certification programs that I've created out of the work that I do. And one that I'm super excited about is the Intuitive Energy Massage, which is now a 3 levels of mastery certification program. I have a level 1 workshop, or a level 2 workshop this weekend coming up, but you have to have done your level 1 first. There's a May level 1, there's a September level 1, November. So basically every second month moving forward, we do level 1, and then level 2 is an internal thing after you've completed your level 1. Intuitive energy massage is this beautiful healing modality that taps into your physical body and your emotional, your energetic, your spiritual bodies. And it allows us to move energy through time, which is why it's appropriate for what we're talking about today, where the practitioner learns how to access the stories that their client's body is holding in all of those different bodies and through time, so that we can then do the healing work in this present moment. And then the other program that I've created is to help healers, to help future healers walk in that path to become healer, to call themselves that in a viable business where they are giving service to others in this way, in this modality, and really stepping into that calling of being a healer and learning how to do that within the systems that I've created. So that one starts in September. Our next program of that one starts in September. So those are some of the things that we've got coming up.
I think it's super exciting when we think about this, is that we get to share our learning. And see, this is what's kind of cool about today's show and today's topic, is that this is a journey. We are on a journey. But if you're like me, you didn't know that till maybe, I want to say 1997 or something, that, that there is this journey and I'm on it, and that my past plays a part, as does my view of the future. But is it true that there's nothing like the present? What is the present?
I love how you said that. There's nothing like the present. In my view and experience and belief, that's because there is no such thing as the present.
I know, we were talking about this, right?
The present does not actually exist. Right? And think about that for a moment. In linear time, which is what we are mostly focused our consciousness on, is linear time, past, present, and future. The present, it never stays in one place. It is a union between the past and the future. And the way that I like to think about it is as if we were on a conveyor belt, or we were standing in front of a conveyor belt. So we're stationary, and time as we understand it is constantly moving past us in linear time, in that concept of linear time. But then if you want to take the quantum physics and throw that into the mix, now we're talking about a circular experience of time, or even a spherical experience of time, where ultimately all time is simultaneous. It's always happening. And then you want to add to that this idea of happen tracks, so that every choice that you make in this present moment as we understand it sends out these tendrils of possibilities into our idea of the future. And then our point of consciousness allows us to choose which of those happen tracks we're going to focus our point of consciousness on. And while this may sound very philosophical or very heady, the practical application of this in terms of the healing of the present or the past or the future is that in this idea that all time is simultaneous, I can choose where I'm going to place my point of focus. And so I can as easily remember my future possibilities as I can know my past and the significance and purpose and reason of the events that I've called into this linear timeline experience.
What's kind of cool about this is people debate this ad nausea, right? Debate the idea that we can repeat things. Once you experience a thing, whatever the thing is, you cannot repeat it exactly, because you as the observer have been forever changed.
Yes.
Forever changed. I think you and I were talking about a very, very popular book that you and I both sort of agree about, and that is Be Here Now and the Power of Now. And and for me, I remember when those books came out, and I think they're really important bodies of work for a lot of people. But there are some of us that just don't get it. And I'm one of those people. Let's talk about intuition if we could.
Sure.
If you are genuinely intuitive, like I think you and I are, we are in this space, this intuitive energy space of the energy of a thing. And that thing isn't necessarily in the present.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's an insight, right? it's a tricky, I don't even want to call it a pendulum because I don't think it is. I've
Mm-hmm.
never been a fan of be here now, be in the present now, the power of now. I have been always a fan of the power of next. And
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if it's from my mom or where it is. That doesn't mean that we don't take time to stop and consciously be aware and meditate. And I
Oh,
think that's where
sure.
we get confused about it, don't you think?
Yeah, I think that what's happening in metaphysical communities and alternative healing communities is this idea that we have to be present to the now puts an enormous amount of pressure on us to somehow show evidence that we understand what the present is and that we're in the present. I'm in the present. But the thing is, you can't be in the present. You just simply can't. It doesn't exist. It's what I just said is now in the past. What I'm about to say is going to be in the future, but as soon as I say it, it's in the past.
Oh,
If we could give ourselves a break and stop trying so hard to fit into a model of the present as though it is some superior place of being, and allow ourselves to move more into the flow of how time is in constant motion, I think that we could achieve much deeper healing of those things that we consider to be our past traumas, with the understanding that the moment we connect with those experiences and connect with the desire to be healed, so we're joining the past and the future together, then we have opened up a space in front of us that is fluid enough to allow us to change our relationship with those experiences that we feel are still in our energetic system, that we're still getting triggered into the visceral experience of it as if it were still happening right now,
hmm
because in all time, being simultaneous, it is still happening until such time as you release the energy around it.
is the present a gateway between the past and the future? And let me tell you what I mean by a gateway.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about like this elongated bridge, but you mentioned Star Trek, didn't you, earlier?
When we were preparing for the
Right,
show, yeah, we were looking at Star
right.
Trek, Quantum Leap, Back to the Future,
Exactly,
Terminator.
exactly.
Yeah, all
And
these
what
places in popular culture where these discussions are happening.
Yeah, and I had a thought now about this, and I'd love for you to talk about it and ask you how you talk about this in the work that you do, the healing work that you do.
Mhm.
What if the present was the moment where we get to decide what was that thing that they used to do to go from where they were and that quantum leap that they would get the enterprise, right? They
Mhm.
would they would just like hit the button and there they go.
Right.
What if the present was simply a resting place to decide on trajectory?
It could be that, although there's still that idea in our language of it's a place to stop when
Exactly.
there is no stopping.
Right.
Not
Right.
not when not when we're focused on linear time. If we move ourselves out of linear time through
hmm
meditation or through the use of hallucinogenic drugs or whatever your thing is that gets you there, dreaming, daydreaming, whatever it is, if we can use the moment that's right in front of us to catapult ourselves into a different dimensional experience of time, then perhaps we could have that experience of all time stopping.
hmm
But I think that while we are in the human form, we are in an energy of linear time. It's very problematic for us to do that and be able to sustain that point of focus because we have to keep coming back to the
Yeah.
physical.
Yeah. And you know what's kind of cool about it? The enterprise was never really stopped.
No,
I mean,
that's right.
never. I mean, and really, I love the analogy we're using.
Mhm.
There was constantly movement, even when in whatever version of that you watched, they were
Mhm.
completely obliterated. They were still out there moving. They
Yeah.
were still out there moving. I love this conversation because what it allows us to do is look at a new paradigm for healing,
Mhm.
right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's what you and I are talking about. That's what your work is about. In
Yeah.
order to get there, though, we do have to challenge the current perspectives on the present.
Absolutely. And that's the playing on the edge piece. That's the radical changing of the way we think about what's possible for us in terms of healing and potential. And I mean, let's talk about amazing future events that we want to manifest for ourselves as well. When we can allow our consciousness to move fluidly between our idea of the past, our concept of the future, this idea of am I present, all of that, instead of getting stuck in it and putting it into boxes, if we can move fluidly through it, then what I know to be true from the work that I do is how quickly, in some cases miraculously, the healing can happen. The moment the client connects to a new perspective and a new relationship to those events that have occurred for them that they believe are the reason why they aren't living the life right now or in the future that they think they deserve to be living.
Yeah, I just got a major dose of this here recently. And I can't believe that when you and I talk about this and we plan these shows, I'm always shocked at the way things change. And I think I could see your face. People don't know. They think you and I just show up when we do the show. We spend time together.
We do spend time together. It's awesome time, too.
It's awesome time. And I thought about this, and I thought about the confident healer. And I thought the word confident changes the entire paradigm of that.
Yeah.
Confident healer.
Yeah.
Because when I think about that and this intensive work that you teach others to do, you have to have a very different perspective on time, or else you will not be able to be confident. I was not confident that I was going to heal my body despite all of the reports, despite all of the diagnosis, despite all of the drugs. None of it was going to happen until I stepped in a place that wasn't the present. Or I have to use the word present. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's our language.
It's our language.
Yeah.
It's the report. It's your bank statement. Right?
Yeah.
It's the doctor's report. It's your kids' report cards. It's like the book deal you didn't get, and you get the letter. There is a completely serious opening for wounding in that place. How do we, or how do you help people to live in that place of confidence so that confident healer and past and future have a purpose and a realm to their lives?
There isn't any one way. I have a whole system now that I've been developing and evolving over the years. And that's where that program has come from, and the manual that I've written for it. And there's lots of different visualizations. There's lots of different conversations that I can have with my clients to help them create that new relationship that we're talking about. There's a visualization that I work with, which is called moving energy through time, for example. And the idea is this, that in front of ourselves, there's that conveyor belt I was talking about earlier. To the left of our physical body is our energetic past. And the left side of our body houses our past experiences and our memories. To the right is the future energy, our energetic future. And the right side of our body is the more active side of our body. It's the part of our body that manifests those dreams and desires. And then right here, this is the only place I know of, Pat, where the present actually can exist.
Here.
It's right here, in this space.
Right
my
here.
Hands. Here, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so in the past, on that conveyor belt, are all the things that have happened and continually to leave my focus of consciousness as they swim past me into the past. And that's where they stay, either as a healed, joyful memory or as a painful, traumatic memory or experience. The future energy is where everything I've placed into my future that I'm waiting to meet as it comes along that conveyor belt. Okay. And my experience of meeting those future events will depend entirely on this space of energy right here in front of me. Because in this space is contained everything I believe to be true about my life experiences and what I believe they say about me. So in order to do the healing work, What I want my clients to do is to visualize one of these events in their lives. Let's say it's a traumatic divorce. I want them to bring that whole energy of that event right here in front of them. I want them to go back into it. I want them to feel it in their body, what that was like, what that pain was like, what the agony was like, what the uncertainty was like, what the confusion was like, the betrayal, whatever their experience was. I want them to bring it all back into their physical body because, and here's the really key point, Pat, your body doesn't know that there's a past and a future. Your body only knows what it receives as electrical and emotional impulses from your memory. And that memory includes future events, because the reason you can think of and imagine future events is because you already know what that feels like because of that simultaneous time. So to bring it back down to a more grounded level, though, we're pulling that experience right in front. Okay. And then we're asking a question. Is there anything about this event that is still stuck or being held in my energetic and emotional bodies? And when the answer is yes, then there's a physical exercise that we do to connect the physical body and how the physical body is holding this energy to the energy itself. And that is to decide, are we ready to do the work, or is that a future event? Are we ready to do the work, and is the work done, and can it go back into the past where it remains as part of our story? So let's say the answer is the work has been done. We have cleared that experience. My client now has a new relationship with that divorce. She's given it purpose and reason. She's decided that it made sense, and she's done her healing work with it. So then we're going to take our right hand, we're going to take a deep breath in with that knowing. And then on the exhale, we physically move it back into the past, where it becomes part of our story, but no longer defines who we are, and is no longer a trigger for our body to go back into the physical manifestation of the emotional experience. If the answer is no, I'm not ready yet, for whatever reason, and we never judge that, I'm not ready to do it yet. I want to place it in the future so that when I'm stronger, when I feel more confident, when it's the right time, I can do the work well. Then we do the same experience, but we do it in reverse. So we breathe it in. And on the exhale, we move it into the future. So in either case, it's no longer right in front of us. And it's no longer stopping us in our tracks from moving into a new relationship. Right?
Yeah. And you know what you're talking about is all of the folks that went through The Secret. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the future. All of the work, all the people that did the vision boards. And believe me, I have a vision board. I do a vision board. All of the things that we so hold on to, when we set that attachment into motion for a thing, and it doesn't turn out the way we think, now we're creating a whole new realm of energy. But how can we hold a vision for our future without an attachment? Boy, attachments hurt, boy.
Good question.
I'm telling you. I tell you, it is like attachments are like the super glue of, stuckness that just won't go away. Let's take a short break. Megan Edge, we'll be right back with the show.
All clear.
Have you ever wondered how you might feel differently if the books were full of her instead of him? What if your history lesson was filled with powerful women leaders and rulers? As a woman, would you feel more empowered? As a man, would you see women differently? I'm Megan Edge. I'd love for you to join me on my radio show, Playing on the Edge, Radical Change with Ease, with my co-host, Dr. Pat, on Transformation Talk Radio. I hope to see you there.
Hey everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. Megan, a couple of things. I know that you've put something together for our listeners here in terms of a fabulous giveaway for people. Tell folks a little bit about what that is.
What I have for everybody are these little ebook stubs. They look like little business cards. And each one of these has a downloadable ebook of the guidebook for my box set of oracle cards, which are one of the tools that we use to help us connect in with our guidance and even sometimes those future events and the information that we want from them. So the ebook gives the audience the ability to read through the book, get a sense of what it is, what I've created. My story is in terms of, and my story was around separation and divorce. That was one of my wake-up calls. And how the symbols that I ended up creating the oracle card deck from, these beautiful hearts that I found in nature, how those became one of the symbols and synchronicities that I worked with as I stepped into this unknown future, from a place of just having to trust that it's going to work out. It's all going to be okay. It's in everyone's highest good. And so all of that is in the story. And then you also get to learn how to work with these divination tools, these beautiful oracle cards, meditation tools, whatever you want to call them. And then each one has its own story as well, with a full color photo and then the channeled message and the story that came from it. And then on some of the ebook stubs, you also get to see the journal. Now, you can't interact with it. We don't have the technology just yet.
Right.
However, you can see it. So you can see these two pieces that are part of the box set that come with the oracle cards as well. And we have 10 of those to give away today. So I believe we're going to be taking 5 callers and 5 Facebook people, some of our folks on Facebook.
And we need their emails, the people that call in to the show, right? What information do we want Benny to get from them?
Well, there's 2 ways that I can send this. I can actually send the hard copy. I'm totally happy to go down to the post office and do snail mail. I love my post office people. So for that, I would need addresses. I also love to have emails, because then that gives me a chance to talk to the people who have made that connection and have reached out to us. So I normally at the end of a show will send off some emails to the people who have received the gifts that we've been giving away and create that connection with them. So, and also I can email the information. So if you wanted to access it immediately, I can send that through the email, because that worked for you, right? When I sent it to you? Yeah. Okay, perfect.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
So for those of you listening, come on, give us a shout. 1-800-930-2819. 1-800-930-2819. And for those of you that are watching on Facebook, just go ahead and type a comment in and say, I would love to receive one of these. So,
and then I can private message them after that. Like right once we have them on the stream, then I can PM them, so they don't have to put their private information on the public part of Facebook.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Well, so you and I were talking before we went to break. We were talking about this idea, and I made a comment about my vision board when we were talking during the break. So one of the things I wanted to chat with you about was this idea of the future and what it is we need to have in our consciousness to manifest. What role does our view of a future or future life, what role does that play?
Yeah, it plays a huge role.
Good, bad, or ugly.
Yeah, good, bad, or ugly. It plays a huge role. But, the answer that first comes to me when you ask, what is it that we need in order to access the future? We actually need to give ourselves permission to see what our future possibilities are. We have a history in our culture and in some of our organized religions of actually teaching ourselves that that's not okay, that only God or whoever is allowed to know what our future is, and we are not allowed to know that, to the point where divination tools, divination and predicting the future have been made illegal in various parts of the world and through time. To be a gypsy with your golden ball or your crystal ball and predicting tall, dark, and handsome was going to show up could get you landed in jail in the state of New York not that long ago.
No, right.
Right. So that's my curiosity with our relationship with the future. What are we so afraid of? Why wouldn't we want to know our future? Why wouldn't it be okay to know what our possibilities and our potentials are? Because that then comes into this conversation around fate and free will and what we believe is ours, what belongs to us. As far as I'm concerned, every future possibility that I could participate in, it belongs to me. These are all possibilities that I've created for myself based on every decision and choice that I've made throughout my entire life right up to this point, and then moving forward. And that brings me to this concept that I would love for more people to understand, or at least to play around with. There are no mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
The decision making is one of the biggest freezing assets that most people have to deal with.
Right.
Making a decision will stop many people in their tracks because they're afraid of making the wrong choice. That's about the future. If there are all these happen tracks that we're talking about and all these quantum possibilities, then there cannot be a mistake. There can simply be your choice and then your experience of that choice. And the experience of that choice, so the outcome or the consequence of the choice that you make, you get to decide how you're going to be in that unfolding, right? That's the free will piece for me. Free will isn't just about I get to make my choices. Free will is about deciding how I'm going to respond emotionally and behaviorally to the outcome of those choices, and how I'm going to paint that outcome, right? So let's say I decided I wasn't going to work with you. I wasn't going to do this beautiful radio show with you. Let's say for whatever reason, I went, not right now, not the right timing. A part of me, I believe, would still have engaged with you and created this relationship with you and this show with you, and the impact that we're having for people. And I, from the point of focus of deciding not to do this, I would have an awareness of what the experience is like of doing this with you. And either choice is fine, because either choice creates an experience. And then I get to decide what I'm going to do with that experience. And at the end of the day, and at the end of our lives, every part of ourselves that we've projected along a future possible line that wasn't our point of focus, I believe it all comes back and we end up with all the information from every choice that we did and didn't make. And I know that's a lot to think about. It's a lot to take in, and not to overwhelm our audience. For me, I find it a really empowering idea to believe that every possibility is there for me, whether I choose to engage in it or not. I can still learn from the other choice I think I didn't make. Right?
I think every decision, whether yes, no, whatever, maybe, indifferent, has its own, what do you talk about, has its own energetic play field, right?
Yeah.
And, part of this is exactly what you said. I find it so interesting because there's one thing I've learned, in my life, and that is that I get to choose how I respond to something.
Yeah.
I really do. And it's not that we're not going to feel sadness if we're sad, or we go through divorces. You're not going to feel something about that. But there's a whole nother series of things that we do with those events in our lives that don't really serve the future that we actually want. Before we kind of bring this to a conclusion of sorts, how can people find out more about you? Let's start there. Let's make sure everybody has enough information about you.
Absolutely. meganedge.ca. Couldn't be simpler. That's the website. From there, you can reach me through email. You can reach me through messaging. I'm on Facebook, Megan Edge Healing. We've got a YouTube channel where we have all kinds of videos, trainings, workshops that I've done. We tape everything. There's lots of resources there. That's all about the work that I do and ways to help support you. And that's Megan Edge Healing on YouTube. And you can always email me. That's one of the best ways to get a hold of me, which is Megan at meganedge.ca.
Awesome. We've been talking about time today,
Mhm.
past, present, future. And I know that you do these fabulous workshops, training, certification with people. We were talking about the future and in the time we have left. I think it's really important for people to know
Mhm.
this is what you've discovered. These are some of the tools that we can share with people.
Mhm. Yeah, the whole idea of working with time in the time that we have remaining. In the day-to-day business of life, you wake up in the morning, you get your breakfast, you go to work, or you look after your kids, or whatever it is that you do with your day, and then you come to the end of the day and you fall asleep, and it feels like you've gone through time, right? You've had the experience of the past and the experience of the future, and then at the end of the day, it's all in the past, and you go to sleep. When we're doing this healing work, we're working in different dimensions of energy where we can play with this dynamic understanding of linear time, and we can make it more accessible and truly time travel with no need of a machine in and out of our past and our possible futures. And we can decide what it is that we want to do with all of that because it's ours, it belongs to us. And that's the point of empowerment that I want to come from when I'm working with clients and teaching my students, is for them to understand how empowering it is to know where you sit in your own timing. And I have this beautiful um, idea of divine timing. So even though we're talking today about being in something different from linear time, I'm also in linear time. I love linear time. I'm in and out of it all the time. Divine timing, this is what I want to leave us with, is the understanding that in your own wisdom, you have chosen events and paths to travel in your lifetime that are going to show up because you have said so. And when they show up, you get to decide how you're going to be in these experiences and how you're going to walk that path. And nobody can take that away from you because you created it. It's yours. And so that at the end of the day and at the end of your life, there is no such thing as wasted time. Every moment, as we understand it, is precious and has meaning and has purpose. So none of it is wasted. And ultimately, there is always enough time.
I think if we can hold on to that thought of there always being enough time,
Mm-hmm.
then the longing, there's
Yeah.
a longing for more. If I could only do this, the regret of that. And I
Mm-hmm.
think what you're talking about is healing the energy of regret in a
Yeah.
powerful way.
In a
And
very
then
powerful way. Yeah.
very powerful. And also preventing regret from showing up.
Yeah.
That's the way I like to roll. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Boy, I mean, once I get it, boy, that's a tough nut to let go of. But, if we could have a few tools. Megan, thank you for today. Again, please give out your website. Thank you so much today. And personal message, what do you want to leave us with?
Well, I have had an amazing time. And I would like for everybody watching and listening to go out into the world and simply enjoy this beautiful day. Give yourself some time to stop and smell the roses and enjoy it.
Yes.
And you can reach me at meganedge.ca. I look forward to seeing everybody again.
And for those of you out there, if you've missed any part of this, please go to Facebook, Transformation Talk Radio, and you'll get to see the whole thing in a few minutes. Thank you, everybody, for being the best listeners on the planet. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, everybody.